This is the Critical Conversations podcast, a KPOV special project developed to feature unique perspectives and the courage it takes to go there, challenge mundane thought, and question the norm.
This morning, we're very fortunate to have with us on the point Sam Corti. Sam is the KPOV Development Director, and Sam and her husband, John, as Steve mentioned at the beginning, are parents of a 14-month-old daughter. Yeah. Adorable little, so we were just going to talk to Sam about what's going on, what's going on with young parents, young mothers in particular here in Central Oregon. So Sam, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm always excited to talk about the one thing that it's dictating my life 24/7, which is the little gremlin.
All right, little gremlin. Yeah. And so do you want to start wherever you want, Sam? But I was thinking you were talking to us about something this morning that's kind of a heavy topic, so we don't necessarily have to jump right into that, but the thing you were talking about in Louisiana? Yeah,
so I read an article this morning about a woman that was pregnant, just found out she was pregnant with her second child, and so, you know the ropes slightly, and she was trying to make an appointment with her OB right around the 6-week mark. So for any other mothers out there, they know that typically you want to get your first appointment in and just check for all the things, the heartbeat, your overall general health. You know, for me, it was to make sure I was actually pregnant because I couldn't convince myself that I was. And they weren't going to actually take patients, newly pregnant women, until after they were pregnant for 12 weeks.
Which seems utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think it is a regressive plan that just seems absolutely unbelievable for the United States.
I mean, it's denying healthcare. It's denying your health rights. I know for me personally, I was so stressed out. I mean, you have no idea what's happening in your body in those first 12 weeks. And even just having the reassurance of a doctor that's looking over your body and checking for all the important things and just having that, 30 minutes of solace where, okay, everything is okay. Because we know that stress in that early stage, in that first trimester, is it's super toxic on a woman's body, on a forming fetus. So there's just a lot of repercussions that we can't even think about. And just for the mental state of a woman, just to not be seen until 12 weeks.
Most recently, a Canadian intellectual, Dr. Gabor Mate, talked about the fact that so much of what we end up becoming is based on what happens to us in the womb. And, I think that it would be exceedingly difficult to remain calm and cool and collected during the course of a pregnancy in times like these.
Absolutely. And I think that the conversation is definitely getting more common about women that do suffer miscarriages in the first trimester. And to think that, you didn't have any of those moments or just even that support in the first 12 weeks. I mean, most often they do happen in that first trimester. So that just is even more isolating to not have that resource or to even have the opportunity to go in to see your OB who's going to be guiding you through that entire process. It's absolutely mind-blowing, especially for first-time mothers.
I think it's fortunate if you are an expectant mother to live in Oregon.
Absolutely, and that was one of the things that we were talking about earlier about this conversation is, I have a daughter and Bruce also has daughters, and it's something that I think about, this might be a limiting factor if she wants to live outside of Oregon. What places can she live within the United States? It's something that I've never had to live or to consider in my lifetime. I knew that my rights were federally protected, but even choosing college if she wants to go down that route or accepting a job. I mean, you have to make sure that the states are upholding this basic human right, and it's going to be a consideration for a lot of people that they didn't have to consider before.
And it seems like this is a problem of some of the most poverty-ridden states there are.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's completely upsetting seeing the correlation between income level and the poverty level and what states are denying basic human rights.
Definitely, as other factors weigh in, like the water crisis in Jacksonville, good grief, you have to not only be concerned for what you're consuming, but for what your baby's consuming.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I just read an article now that they've confirmed that microplastics are in breast milk. And so, like, as a new mom, I wouldn't say quite a young mom, but I appreciate that, Bruce. But as a new mom, I will say, I mean, there's the evolution of social media has been both a great thing for new moms and also a terrifying thing. You get a lot of support and you are less isolated, but you also consider a lot more factors than you probably would have. You kind of, instead of staying in your bubble. And so there are so many things that go through your mind of like, what am I doing to mess up this poor innocent child's young life before they even can say their first word or take their first step. So yeah, the environmental factors are huge as well.
Yeah, I think ultimately what we're looking at, and I'm happy to say that KPOV has been very proactive, but even the subject of microplastics hasn't been covered that well in national media. Mm-hmm. And I am a fan of LaShow, and Harry Shearer covers that issue every week. So it's really in the forefront of my mind, and it should be for anybody who is pregnant or is going to have a kid or is, going to be raising a kid. The fluid that they drink, the water, mm-hmm. becomes a real question.
Well, and also the materials that you feed your kid with, the forks and the plates. And they have made, there are some really great companies that are coming out with materials that are BPA proof and are better for consumption. But it's just another thing that you're like, oh, I'm just trying to feed my child. I'm just trying to make sure that they are happy, fed, and taken care of, and things that don't even necessarily cross your mind could be, hurting them.
Well, you've certainly given all the listeners today a good example of someone your age who is paying very close attention to what's going on. And I would hope, as we spoke earlier, that there will be other people your age that get equally involved and become as well educated about the environmental challenges that you face, as well as the actual challenges of getting childcare, which is probably going to be one of the next issues we're going to talk about.
Go ahead, Sam.
Well, and I was just going to say one thing that I recommend, because there's so many places to access information. You'll get it from your mother, your mother-in-law, your aunt, your sister-in-law, your best friend, someone you haven't talked to in 30 years, So I would say if you trust your pediatrician, it's great to access all this information and to do your research on your own. But trust the doctor, and if you don't trust your pediatrician, then get a new one, because you have to find a way to silo out information, or else you will go cuckoo bananas.
So one of the issues, a really big issue right now for all young parents is childcare.
Yes.
And can you talk about that? I think in your experiences and maybe in a broader context.
Yeah. So I mean, just from personally, that was something that I was warned to tackle, like when I was actually even still pregnant, to try to tackle the childcare, figure that out, get on wait lists. And it is a labyrinth of different information, different costs, trying to, so it's trying to sign up for different types of childcare. I've had friends that have done, my peers that have done some hybrid combination of childcare, whether it's a grandparent that can take the kids, 1 to 2 days a week, or parents that one parent will stay home for the first, 5 to 6 years of the child's life until they get into kindergarten. It is quite, I'd say it's the biggest challenge that I've faced so far, because unless you can have one parent that can have the burden of the entire earning the entire living, and so that a parent can stay home or even, put in a couple hours at a job where they are actually contributing to the bottom line, not just to working to cover childcare. That's kind of the way that I was told to break down the numbers. If you are working just to pay for childcare, then it's not worth it, and that is quite a common occurrence, I think, for a lot of people, even those that are established in their career.
Well, I know I'm glad that I'm working on 73 because those tasks that you're talking about seem nearly insurmountable, and I can certainly understand why young people feel a level of stress that have kids.
Absolutely. I mean, and you do, I mean, someone that's taking care of your child, but also, most people would need to work as well to feel their own sense of identity and fulfillment. So that's also something that plays into the decision-making process. And stay-at-home moms, I mean, that is the hardest job.
Oh, yeah.
I just to have the burden of socialization and milestones and benchmarks and all the other things that childcare providers are educated with. I mean, they are actually educated on that. And when you're a new parent, you're self-educated. You have all the anecdotes from everyone that stops you in the street to give you advice, but typically, you don't know anything about rearing a child, and that is your ultimate number one takeaway from that, or from goal after you have a child is, okay, now I got to figure out how to do this. I got you through to this part, and just keep learning and adapting and growing. So to think about taking on a whole other career for that, I mean, that's what stay-at-home moms are doing. It's just incredible work, but it's also now seen as a luxury to be able to be a stay-at-home mom, even though that's absolutely not the case. That's it really comes down to your own personal finances and whether you can even get a place or a full-time place. I mean, when we started off, we were only able to do part-time in-home private care, and that's wonderful too. But you're also like considering the routine. Are you messing up the child's routine by not having something consistent? Are you messing up your own routine by not having something consistent? All those pieces that go into it. So it's definitely been the most challenging piece about what is the best thing for your family and for your child and for your finances.
You're very fortunate to have been involved in the industries that you've been in, because I think it gives you a clear insight to a lot of what other people are putting up with.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's usually not a single issue. It's a number of issues, and then you have to figure out how to balance and juggle everything. And boy, I think that's really a challenge for young people nowadays.
Well, and it's not like it's just for, until they're in kindergarten or until they're in school. I mean, then you've got the summers or the holidays off. And I always look at the parents that are, with multiple kids running around to sports and to do this. And I don't know how they're able to balance all of that and how they work with their employers about, childcare and summer camps and all of that. I mean, it just seems like you tackle one challenge and then there's the next ones that go, and that's, I guess, being a parent. But yeah, the childcare burden is absolutely, the cost of the childcare is absolutely, I think, a deterrent for a lot of people that are considering whether they want to have children or not. They say that the millennials aren't having kids, or they're not having many, and that's it's a fiscal decision.
It is definitely a potential issue in a way that's unfortunate, but it's unfortunate that we have our society constructed in a way that it's a potential issue, right? As opposed to having a society where we all take care of each other and could make parenting a joy, and it is a joy, right? I mean, right. I know that quite well, but yeah. So and Sam has put in Herculean efforts to balance all of those things and get here at this KPOV. It's a fairly demanding job, joyful and fulfilling, but fairly demanding, actually quite demanding. So, Sam, that's...
Thank you for letting me share
anything
my
else
story.
Anything else you want to throw in? Or?
It was nice to be able to expose my child to a lot of events with KPOV this summer. So I do recommend that, even just getting out on the weekends and getting involved. Been to events every week, and I know we're all hibernating now, but it was really cool to expose her to so many different things, marches and music festivals, and there's tons of free events that just help spark your imagination, your inspiration, while also being able to, expose your child to what's happening right now, even if they are, in the little lump / gremlin phase.
In the little stroll. I had the privilege to be at a couple of those places with Sam's daughter, and it was a joy to watch her with just those wide eyes and smiles and coos and all that. So, all right, thank you so much, Sam, for joining us this morning.
Steve and Bruce.
You bet.
You've been listening to a KPOV Critical Conversation. To hear more engaging interviews on important topics, please visit kpov.org/criticalconversations.